You get the call.
Yeah.
They say, we've found the perfect match for you.
Yep.
You ready to donate a kidney?
Yes.
What goes through your mind when you get that call?
I'm like, this is great. I have this opportunity to do something really meaningful and big and beautiful.
Yeah.
When the recipient's family heard that our plane landed, they started crying. We go to the pre-op part, and that's when it starts to get much more real.
It was a lot. It was very emotionally and physically exhausting. I got to meet 2 of the 8 children of the gentleman that received your kidney. I mean, the level of gratitude that I felt from them. You know, if anyone's had a sick family member, everybody has. You know how much it affects you. So just hearing that and knowing that we had the opportunity to change that many
It made me
lives.
so happy. It's like one of the best phone calls you get in your life.
I
Is
love
just
that.
to hear that like the person who you gave a kidney to is doing so well.
Yeah.
I've never experienced putting in so little relatively to getting back so much and to creating so much good.
Yes, right. What an honor,
Thank you.
that I got to also benefit from some of the
Yeah,
joy
yeah.
that, that you gave to this
Like
family.
I wasn't prepared for other people's perception of how big a deal this was.
It's like this exclusive club of people that are
You
incredibly.
can't pay your way in.
No, well, you can, but it'll cost you an
Yeah,
organ.
it costs you an organ,
Kidney
right?
disease afflicts over 26 million Americans. Fortunately, live kidney donation is a safe and proven treatment that triples life expectancy. The waiting list in the United States for a kidney from a deceased donor is about 5 to 7 years. But thanks to my guest today, there is one less person on the kidney transplant waiting list. Today's guest is a recurring guest of the pod and happens to be my favorite guest.
Thank you.
It is none other than my incredibly selfless, brave, handsome,
Thank you.
and altruistic fiance, David Pinkus. When I first talked to David about documenting this entire journey, he wasn't on board because he's one of those guys that likes to keep his charitable nature more in the background. However, after a conversation with his rabbi, he agreed to share his story because it might inspire others to either donate a kidney or donate to the places that do these kidney donations. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Bonnie.
So nice to have you
Nice
here.
to be here.
Thanks for coming to your house to record a podcast. This is for those of you who haven't seen yet, this is my new-ish studio. I've only recorded a few episodes here, and it happens to be in the house that will someday be mine and David's. Currently
Correct.
is now David's, but we're remodeling and we're going to get married, and then we will make it our house.
Indeed.
So it's been a process. Anyhow, that's not what we're here to talk about
No.
today. We are here to talk about your kidney donations. First of all, David, it's a big deal. I know you like to say it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal. So, what was it that inspired you to do this?
So, and I've never actually been comfortable with how big a deal it is, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But I can confidently say it was the greatest experience of my life. And so, what inspired me? It's actually been in the back of my mind for a long time. And I think I first heard about it maybe 20 plus years ago because a friend of mine donated her kidney to her dad. And she was fine. Like no changes, like she was an athlete, so it worked out well. And that planted the seed in me, but only on the familial donation level, right? Like it didn't occur to me that you could or donate it to somebody else, or that just wasn't part of like the normal conversation, I guess. Then my rabbi donated a kidney to one of the members of the congregation about 12 years ago, and that planted another seed in me. And then there were 2 other people in the congregation who donated, and that planted yet another seed in me. And then I had something change in my life a couple of years ago that really made me reflect on life in general as a whole and why we're here and whatnot. And I decided after that to swab. And for those who don't know, swabbing is you basically get a bunch of Q-tips and you put them in your mouth in the corners and you mail it off.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so that was most of the decision, but it was also detached a little bit from the actual yes or no, right? It was like, yes, I'm a candidate. And I found out after that that I may never get a phone call.
Right.
I may never match with somebody perfectly. And the general idea now is you don't just take any match. You take one that's really compatible with you. Because if you get a poor match, you're just gonna need another kidney in a couple of years.
Right.
And that doesn't work for anybody, right? So you wanna try to find the best match. We can talk more about like matching compatibility later.
Yeah, for sure. I know, like, you wanted to do something special and you
Hmm.
were thinking about life, and this thing happened in your life that made you really like reassess everything and
Yeah.
want to give back. There are so many different ways you can give back. I mean, you can give money, you can do volunteer work,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things you can do. Getting on a surgical table and having your body opened up and taking out an organ is probably the most incredible, most charitable thing I can think of that a human could do.
Mhm.
What inspired you to give back in such a large way?
To me, it didn't seem that large, to be perfectly honest.
Hmm,
It just seemed like, a meaningful thing I could do,
right.
and I I don't know, I didn't know enough going in, to be perfectly honest,
Yeah,
and I certainly was ill prepared for the magnitude of it, at least in the perception of other people,
right.
but I didn't know enough to know how big a deal it was, to be perfectly honest, and it seemed like the most tangible and approachable way to touch somebody's life,
Yeah,
right? Like, I'm healthy, and so I said, "Okay, I'll give a little piece of me to somebody else to help their life."
amazing.
Like, I give blood all the time, right? So,
Right.
like and I do the Power Red or whatever, but, like, that's just something you do, right?
It's something you do.
Okay.
It's not something a lot of people do,
Maybe not.
and that's one of the reasons I love you so much because you are truly a selfless person that tries to do good in the world, and you don't just talk about being a good person, you do it, you through your action, and that's amazing, and I love you so much for that.
Oh, thank you.
As you were going through this whole process
Yeah.
and, you we'll talk more about how that all went, but I started to think, I wonder if I could do this.
Mhm.
It's like such a amazing, inspiring thing. And I started listening to podcasts and, that's what I do. I research and I
Right, right.
start, learning about it. Is it safe for him? And, and like, what does this all mean? And how's this going to affect his life? And I got really inspired too. So I Googled like, can a person with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome donate a kidney? And it was
Mhm.
like, it's not really documented, but in the UK, apparently they say definitely not.
'Kay.
Um, can't even donate like bone marrow, blood, nothing. But my small way
Mhm.
of contributing
Mhm.
was to support you in this.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
that's
What you need somebody strong and caring by your side to both validate the decision you're making and be there to just even help you logistically because,
yeah.
it hurt, right? Like,
Of
there
course.
was more pain than I expected,
Yes.
and I am still on the can't lift more than 10 pounds, like, list for another, like, week or 2. So you just need somebody, like, logistically to help you too.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. What was the reaction of friends and family when you shared this with them?
Mostly disbelief, I think,
Yeah.
because unless you know somebody that's done it, it's a very alien concept to most people, right? It's something that
Mhm.
happens on TV or you hear about from somebody.
Right.
You don't really meet kidney donors often, right?
Mhm.
So I got a couple of T-shirts, One Kidney Club. Ask me how to join, right? So if somebody sees it, like I can explain to them what they can do.
Right.
But I don't think for many people it just seems like this alien idea, and it's part of, like, that's what you do for siblings or family or something like that. Like,
Yes.
it's not people walking around. I will mention one other, influence was the Freakonomics podcast because they
Okay.
talked about the kidney chain concept. It was really, revered as a good way to help, organ donation, and the idea is you can find somebody who's willing to donate to you, but they may not be a match.
Mm.
So if you find enough couples like this, eventually you can match them all in some sort of a chain, right? That's called a kidney chain.
Right.
And that's getting some traction. But what you really need to kickstart it is somebody coming in without a couple, without a need, and just saying, "Here I am. I'm going to help, start this chain or kick it off."
Right.
So that's what we need more of. And there's one other thing, Bonnie. I was thinking about this too. I've been maybe to 100 trade shows in my life,
Mhm.
and I've never seen a kidney booth. So this might have been something I did in my 20s,
Yeah.
right? But I've never seen a booth anywhere
Huh.
that said "Save a life."
Right.
Right? And so I don't think the organizations are doing as good a job as they could be doing. about advertising this
Promoting it.
because, right, like I've been to trade shows with 100,000 people, right?
Mhm.
So maybe there are 2 or 3 people there that would do it.
Right.
So, that's just one other thing to contemplate too.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons we're sharing this is
Correct,
because
right.
we're hoping that if someone hears this, they'll hear all the different parts in our experience and maybe be motivated to give a kidney themselves.
Or encourage somebody else,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. So I think my question was a little bit misunderstood. What I
Okay.
meant to say is when you told your family,
Mhm,
including me,
mhm.
Hey, I decided to donate a kidney. I'm going to do this." What was the reaction?
I think once it's settled, it was mostly positive,
Yeah,
but there was nervousness in everybody's voice that I talked to.
yeah,
Because again, it's like one of those things where like, why? Like, what are you doing this for, you know?
uh huh,
Um, and I won't mention my name, but some people in the family were not supportive.
right.
They said, "I don't agree. You know, you have kids and whatnot."
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very, very fair consideration, and I
Sure.
made sure that my affairs were set up, you know, if in case God forbid something happened. But like you said earlier, it's extremely safe,
Yes.
especially if you're healthy. And so it seemed like a kind gesture that um, would make the world a little bit brighter, especially when it's been kind of dark and gloomy for the past
Correct.
couple of years.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that.
That's okay. Like it was interesting because the people that said they don't support it, they said like, "What if your family needs one? Like, what if your kid needs one?"
Yes.
And what I learned is that if somebody in my immediate family needs one, they're actually moved much higher on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only like it's equal to giving one, it's actually better because I may not be a match, right? So, for example, my recipient has 8 children, none of whom were a match. So it didn't advantage anybody necessarily to say, you know, to just save it for somebody in their immediate family because they may not be a match,
Right.
right? So like giving it away actually helps everybody in your orbit in
Yeah.
case they need one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. And that's one, if somebody needs an additional motivator for
Right.
doing this, it's like, well, if you do it, then your family is going to be, if someone or yourself are in need of a kidney, you're at the top of that list. And then the other thing that was encouraging to hear was that only 40% of people that want to do this are medically approved to do it because of
Correct.
they go through a very, very rigorous testing process. And you would know because you had to fly to New York not once, but twice
Correct.
to undergo every single test under the sun, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I got the phone call and it took me, you know, just a few seconds to say I'm in, right? I mean, they explained a little bit about how good a match I was, which was encouraging. And I think we're going to get to this later, but I was what's called a zero eplet mismatch.
Hmm.
And we can talk later about what those specifically are, but I'm a really, really, really like 1 in 10,000 kind of match for the recipient,
Right.
which is a blessing. It's a gift, you know? And so I said, all right, I'm in. And they said, okay, you get a call from New York Presbyterian Cornell Medical Center there, and they'll schedule it. And so I was expecting a call in a day or two. I didn't get it, so I called back. I'm like,
Mm.
"Where's my phone call?" And then I talked to them, and then we set a date like 10 days from then or something like that for me to fly out. And so there was one test I tried to do here, which was inconclusive here. So I had to do the 24-hour urine test.
It's a funny
Which
story.
which yeah, it's kinda funny. So, like, I had the earliest flight possible, and you can't bring liquids on a plane, right?
Right.
And getting a medical exception, I don't know if that would go or not. So, basically, I go through security, and then I start my 24-hour urine test, as I'm traveling, and, like, by the end of the day, I had 3 bottles in my backpack that I was turning into the hospital the next morning. But, so then I went it was a couple of days, and you start with a nurse, and then you meet with a social worker
Hmm.
to make sure your motivations are clear and your expectations are clear and you understand what's going to happen. And then I was meeting with the nephrologists, but they came in for a few minutes and they said, "We'll be back." Then a psychiatrist came in, and then another phlebotomist came in with a laundry basket full of vials. There must have been like 20 or 25 vials in there for my
Wow.
blood. So
Wow.
she was just busy like tapping for blood basically the entire time I'm talking to the psychiatrist. And again, he wants to make sure that you're mentally in the right state of mind for this. And I think one of the big things is like that you have no expectations from anybody about what's going to happen.
Right.
So And I find like this was fine. I'm like, this is a gift. I'm giving it. I don't even need to know who the person is. Like if
Yeah,
they want to know, fine. But I'm perfectly content to just put it in a box and put a little bow on it and hand it over.
right. So let's step back a minute.
Sure.
So you get the call.
Yeah.
They say, "We've found the perfect match for you.
Yep.
You ready to donate a kidney?"
Yes.
What goes through your mind when you get that call? What goes through your heart and your mind and your emotions and everything?
It was not as emotional for me because I think I'd already pre-decided that when I got the call, I would say yes.
Okay.
And some people never get the call,
Right.
right? And I'd pre-decided that I would say yes, right? And the timing was such where it didn't present an impediment. The
Mhm.
only thing I had to work around a little bit was my kids' college break, winter break, right?
Yeah.
So, because I didn't want to like be gone while they were here, but the timing just worked out fine anyway.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'd pre-decided I would do it, and you almost forget about it after swabbing,
Yeah.
right? And then you get the call and you're suddenly reminded of it and you're like, okay, this is great. I'm like, this is great. I have this opportunity to do something really meaningful and big and beautiful.
Yeah.
And so, and that was it. That was the calculus.
So you were
And
excited.
absolutely. And then
Okay.
I nerded out a little bit on like this zero eplet thing, right?
Right,
Yeah. So I like
right.
nerded out on antigens and like, what that means and how that
Okay,
works
so
and stuff.
explain it. I know you wanna talk about that.
So, and I'm not a nephrologist or an immunologist.
Right.
Just for the
Disclaimer, we are
absolute
not
right.
medical
So get this
professionals.
from somebody like really knows what they're doing. But basically, like your immune system is tuned into understanding if something is a friend or foe in your body, right? And sometimes that manifests itself as like allergies to certain things on a very mild level. And it can get much more significant with organ rejection, right?
Mhm.
And so one of the things, and this is like recently really been refined, is on the on some antigens on the outside of it, basically are these eplets, and they're sort of like a badge, right? So imagine you're going to a concert and you have your tickets to get in, but then you have like maybe the box seats. That's another ticket, another badge, and then you have backstage passes. That's a badge, and then you have a backstage pass to go to the extra backstage thing, and then you have another badge to meet the band.
Right.
Like any one of those could be a mismatch,
Yeah.
and if there's too many that are mismatched, you have to take a lot of anti-rejection medication, and the organ won't last as long.
Okay.
But if you're a perfect match, like 0 mismatches, then you have the ticket to go right in and hang out with the band, maybe get up on stage, right? You have
Nice.
everything you need. So there's none of these signals that say to the recipient's body, "I'm gonna reject this,"
Yeah.
right? So that's that's part of the stuff that I learned that was kind of interesting. It's like on chromosome 6 and, like, there's a whole bunch of other, again, cool stuff to nerd out on.
So basically you were like the platinum VIP pass kidney for this person that received
They
your
said
kidney.
gold standard, then they said platinum standard. So yeah, I was a great match. So that
Nice.
was great. And
That's
that it
amazing.
was more meaningful to me when I found out that the recipient had 8 children and none of whom was a match. Right,
Incredible.
which just goes to show like it doesn't necessarily mean that your family's going to be a perfect match.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. How long did it take from the time you swabbed until you got that call?
Year and a half,
Okay.
maybe? Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
Alright.
Yeah.
So by that point, you probably just forgot about it already.
Kind of. Just back of the mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I didn't think I finished all the testing stuff too.
Okay,
So
okay.
after the psychiatrist,
Right.
I met with nephrologists.
Okay.
And, those are the kidney doctors, right?
Yeah.
And a pair of them, and we talked at length about this, and they checked my blood pressure and a variety of other, vitals, and they said, "Okay, we think you're good." And then, I had a whole bunch of imaging. So they MRI'd me and X-rayed me and ultrasounded me to make sure that, like, everything was fine, the heart was fine, the kidneys were fine, and everything was gonna work, and I'd be able to be fine with 1 kidney,
Right.
right? So, and that was like a 2.5 day process, and then I had to go back again for another set of imaging, like another week or 2 later, and then they needed more of my blood,
Ugh.
and this was, like, really the most nerve-wracking thing because we were supposed to fly out on a Sunday, and we didn't know Thursday whether or not we were going. We didn't find out until Saturday night
Mhm.
that we were going. So, because the nurse who was, like, leading me through the process, she called and said, "We need some more of your blood." And I was like, "Uh-oh, does this mean this is not gonna work?" She goes, "No, no, no. It's something we just have to do. We didn't get enough of your blood the first time," which is surprising because they took so much,
Right.
but I guess these are for other tests. And so they sent a kit to me and they said, "We're gonna send a phlebotomist to your house." The local one wasn't available for house call, so I had to go there, which is fine. So I brought the kit down there. They took some blood, they FedExed it back, And then I found out later there was a problem with FedEx. So
Ugh,
because like one of the doors was closed on Saturday, and then the other door that was open was on around the corner, which is a different street address.
yeah,
So this wonderful, incredible nurse named Paulina, she drove to the FedEx office, said, "I need that blood," took it to the hospital, and then texted me that night. We checked it, and it said we're good. So like that's when I packed.
that is
Oh,
commitment.
I
Oh,
also
tell
manifested it too.
yes,
Yes. So, not a big, like, super huge manifest or anything, but I made myself a great chili, and I bought a whole bunch of kidney beans from Trader Joe's. So I had like cans and cans of organic kidney beans, which was, there's other things that happen when you eat too many beans, but it works, right? So
we
I had
can
a lot of
skip that
beans. We could skip
detail.
that. Yeah, I had a lot of kidney beans and hope that it would help.
That's awesome. So I remember how excited you were
Hmm.
about it, and then how, like, concerned you were. You were
Hmm.
like, "Oh my gosh, if this doesn't happen, I'm gonna be so upset, I'm gonna be so disappointed. I
Yeah.
really, really want this to happen." You were all in, you were so committed, and you really, like I mean, this was, like, everything to you at that time. You really
There's another human being on the other side of it.
Yeah,
Like, I didn't wanna disappoint them.
of
I didn't
course.
know them,
Of
but I
course.
didn't wanna disappoint them because
Right.
I mean, they have to have some sense of where you are in the process,
Yep.
and we had a scheduling thing with them too
Mhm.
to make sure they were ready for the surgery, and that had to be pushed back for a little bit, and so, yeah, I did not want this to not work. I really wanted
Yeah.
to at that point, I really, really wanted to do it.
Right. So I remember when I came over and we were like, I don't know, in your closet or something, and we were
Mhm,
talking about something, and you said, "Oh, I just got a message from the nurse
mhm.
saying that I'm approved," and we kind of like hugged and,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like did a little
for
rah
sure.
rah celebration. We were
Yep,
just really, really both happy and relieved that
totally.
this was actually going to happen. We were getting on a plane the next day, and we were gonna go donate a kidney.
Yep.
So I say we, but it was you. It's all you. I was just the support system. Oh, we got to tell the story about what happened on the plane, and I might like insert the video here. But
Oh, yeah, very
yeah,
cute.
so I'm gonna take this because
Go for
I
it.
I
Yeah, yeah.
kind of I kind of led on this one, but um, so we're flying to New York, and we even masked up because even though
Wanted to stay healthy.
yeah, David, is a healthy person. I'm not so much, but David is. I was like, you know what? Now would be a time that makes sense for us to wear masks because it's not just us that we're protecting. We're protecting the person who's going to receive your kidney. We want to make sure
Yep.
you're healthy so you can donate. So we had our N95 masks on all
Mhm.
the way. And then, well, not in the plane, but, anyway, so we were on the plane and I was talking to and I was just like a proud wifey, or
Mhm.
wifey to be. And I went back and I pretended like I was going to the restroom on the plane and I went back and I was talking to the flight attendants and I said, "Do you ever make any special announcements?" And they're like, "Sure." And I said, "Well, my husband, I just call him my
It's
husband
fine.
sometimes cuz
We do that,
he
it's easier.
just
Yeah.
basically are anyway." So I said, is flying to New York to donate a kidney, and it's to an anonymous donation. He doesn't even know the person he's donating it to. Would you mind, making a little announcement and, just encouraging people to keep him in in their thoughts and prayers? I tried to be sly about it, but you're on a
So
plane. We're
obvious.
sitting next to each other. He's not a dumb guy. I mean, like I did my best. I kind of knew he knew. So then the flight attendant taps me on the shoulder and hands me a little piece of paper asking me to like write out what I want them to say.
Right.
So I write a little script, and this is how it went. So here's the little video that we
Yep.
recorded.
We do have one more announcement. We have a very special passenger on board today. His name is David. He is traveling from Phoenix to New York City to make an anonymous kidney donation. Please keep David, his wife, and family in your thoughts and prayers. Again, he is making an anonymous kidney donation, giving the gift of life. Best of luck, David, and thank you.
So he, sort of kind of acted surprised, not so much, but it was really sweet. The whole plane applauded, and it was just a really cool moment and almost brought me to tears. Just I was just really proud.
And there was another passenger, right? In particular that was, like, closer about this? Didn't somebody come up and say, like, she either knew somebody?
Oh, yes, yes. Actually, while I was in the back of the plane talking to the flight attendants,
Mhm,
one of the flight attendants, actually the one that was gonna be making the announcement,
mhm.
said this is really near and dear to my heart. I know somebody that needs a kidney that's been on the waiting list for 3 years
Wow.
and, on dialysis and
Yeah.
really poor quality of life. And so she was enamored to, make
Yeah.
this announcement and be even a small part of this. So that, it just goes to show you everybody knows somebody that, has this issue.
Right.
And it's very prevalent. I think it's like the ninth cause of death in the United States is kidney failure,
Mm.
possibly in the world. I can't remember what the exact stat is, but it's very significant. So it was just very meaningful to us and to everybody and anybody we told along the way, which big mouth over here, I had to share with pretty much everybody that we'd be at the store and I'd be like, hey, we're here donating a kidney. And, and then afterwards I'm like, yeah, my husband just donated a kidney.
Mhm.
And, it, it's not just to like brag that you're so amazing, but it's also, like I said, maybe it inspires someone else to do it.
Right.
I mean, maybe like someone has been thinking about it in the back of their mind and they just need this little prod to say, hey, reminder, you could save a life. You have the ability to potentially save a life. So, anyway.
And sometimes it's just eliminating friction,
Hmm.
right? So the organization I went with was one I knew of,
Right.
and it was just easier for me to do that, right? And so anything you do in any process to eliminate friction is going to make it smoother for people to go through it,
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. So, let's talk about the day of surgery.
Okay. Let's talk about the day before surgery, because you have a certain diet up until noon, and then you have
Oh,
another type of diet
yeah.
from noon until about 6, and then you take magnesium citrate flavored beverages, a certain amount. No, and the artificial flavoring is not quite right. Um, so that you're cleaned out basically
Hmm.
for surgery. So that was the night before, and you try to sleep, but you're nervous, and we had to be at the hospital at 6 o'clock, right?
Yes.
So
Crazy.
yeah, early. Oh, and when we landed, another part of the story that's really kind of beautiful. We found out after the fact that when the recipient's family heard that our plane landed, they started crying, which is just, again, like the size of the magnitude. Like that was completely surprising to me that it was like, again, like that big. But for them, it was, tremendous. So we left that morning, so bitter cold in New York too. We landed, it was
So
like,
cold.
feels like 4 degrees or something, which is fine, whatever, just like
Snow was
the,
falling.
whatever you deal with it, right? So we go to the hospital, and then I call one of the people coordinating it, because of HIPAA and privacy, you don't want to see the potential recipient, or you don't potentially want to see the recipient on the way in too. So we had to actually stagger what time we were going in.
To the hospital we're talking
Correct.
about now,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. To go through the security and everything else, because you don't
Right.
want to like just overhear something like that.
Mhm.
And then we get in, and we start. I guess when we checked in, we went to the floor, we got to the pre-op part, and that's when it starts to get much more real. Like you start changing. My rabbi flew out with us, which was just, spectacularly beautiful and wonderful and kind, because he had done it before. So it was really like near and dear to him. And it was very, very comforting for me to have him there. And so he was in the room with me for a while, as were you, and the gentleman that was helping coordinate everything, Moshe. And so we, yeah, I mean, you're there basically getting ready for showtime.
Yes.
And so uh, this was the only time I've had only a few surgeries. I've had a couple of hernia repairs, basically. And I was asleep on the gurney, before that was even happening, basically. Here, I had to walk into the surgery room, and it was like the kind of thing you see on TV. It's like so much equipment everywhere, and you have to
Yes.
get on the bed yourself, and then they like spread your arms out and tie them down so you're not in the way as anything's happening there. And then they put the mask on me, and I actually said, "I'm getting a little claustrophobic. Can you take it up for a little
Mm.
bit?" And they said, "Sure." And then I guess they put more gas in or something. I was breathing close enough, and then I closed my eyes, and then I woke up in post-op.
I bet when you said you were getting claustrophobic, they gave you a little something extra in your IV.
Maybe that was something happened, but yeah,
Yeah, they did
yeah.
something to make you go night night real
Yeah,
fast.
yeah. I didn't like the feeling, like, and I scuba dive, so that's different. It's just different when having somebody else put it on your face, you know?
Well, and it's unlike you, I've had many surgeries and
Right,
I know how scary it can be when you're laying there and you see all of these, you know, lots of equipment and lights and 10 people over you, prodding and poking and checking a million things. It's
right.
terrifying. You feel like you're, in a real life episode of Grey's Anatomy, but you're the patient. So
Also, the surgeon also came in, and he was
amazing.
very amazing, not just, like, technically amazing, because he's done,
Mhm.
like, almost 4,000 of these, so he's as good as it
Unbelievable.
gets, but, just very comforting, like, very humanizing,
Mhm.
and I didn't feel even for a second that it was a transactional relationship. I felt like he really legitimately cared. He visited me in the hospital again, he came afterwards, he called me afterwards, like, just that kind of, like, love was great, you know?
Shout out to Doctor Del Pizzo.
Yeah, yeah, he was
Yeah.
amazing, yep.
Yeah, and he actually didn't he invent a special way to do this surgery laparoscopically?
Yeah, so I don't know all the details about that, but I believe he
Right,
also did something with tooling. So
right.
they did this all through one 3-inch slit through my belly button,
Mhm.
um, which is kind of amazing. And that's it. Like the light goes in there, and the tools go in there, and the kidney comes out from there, and they fill you up with a little bit of gas. So that's one of the things that's like a little bit painful afterwards, which is they fill you up with gas so they can see what's going on and like work, but they suck out most of it as much as they can, but some still like stays in your body, and so you get some shoulder pain afterwards. Like a heating pad takes care of it, but for a couple days you're in pain there. But yeah, the surgeon was great. That part was, like, really, really comforting too.
Yes. It's funny because you say, "Oh, that was a little painful," but, like,
Yeah.
I remember he's not he's either not remembering or he's putting on a brave face right now because I remember it was a lot more than a little painful at the time. There was definitely some moments of pain, but it
But
was
mitigated by how great everything else was about it,
right.
right? So, like, for me, it's just, like, discomfort. Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't been through as many surgeries, so, it's the funny thing is you say you've been through, like, 3 surgeries. I think you've
Yeah,
been with me for more surgeries than you've been through yourself an entire lifetime.
I think you're right.
In the past 7 years
I
that
think
you've
you're right.
known me, you've
Yep.
probably been through more.
At least 2 hips,
At least
right?
2 hips, a neck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. Yeah, we did that
lots of
too.
ear
Yeah, yeah,
tubes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you came just after the pacemaker, so yeah, but yeah, you've seen
Seen a
you've
lot.
been
Yep.
in those rooms a lot, in the hospital rooms. So I wanna talk about from my side when
Mhm.
you were in there. So, yeah, so I am an anxiety person. It's just kind of part of my nature. It's always how I've been, and I don't know that I'll ever completely change it. I've gotten a little better about managing it, but definitely lots of anxiety leading up to it, especially the night before. It was very little sleep, and anybody who knows me knows that mornings are not something that I experience often. My eyeballs are usually closed, so
Mhm.
having to wake up at, I think, 4:30 to get to the hospital by 6 was monumental. The love of my life is gonna be going under the knife, and it was a lot. It was very emotionally and physically exhausting because travel for
Sure.
me is also very tiring given all my stuff. So get there, David's prepped for the surgery. We see him in his cute little gown with his cute little cap.
Literally nothing cute about it.
Posing, making bustles in the gown. We'll pop a picture of that up. And then comes the point where I have to say goodbye. And
Mhm.
I was keeping on my brave face for him. But as soon as he turned away, I was choking back the tears because,
Mm.
it's scary anytime, no,
Yeah,
even,
anytime somebody you love goes in for
of
surgery,
course,
there's
it's
always, a hint
scary.
of fear. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of risk with any surgery, even the
Of
most safe
course.
of surgeries. So, I'm sitting out there, I'm waiting and waiting, but I will say that the people from the organization
Mhm,
that orchestrated this entire thing, it's a company called Renewal,
mhm.
um, were amazing,
Yeah,
amazing. Moshe and Penny were there, and they were with me the whole time, like, on and off. I think there were very little times where there wasn't one or the other of them there with me, distracting me, talking to me. I had family calling and checking in and, lots of very good distractions, but
mhm,
the most amazing and meaningful and distracting part of it all was I was sitting in the family waiting area, waiting for you to be done with surgery.
right.
At the same time, there was another family there, and the Rabbi Shoshan, your rabbi,
Yep.
was talking to this other family, and he came. And technically, we're not supposed to meet the other family
Right.
at the time of the surgery because it can get very emotional. There's lots, everybody's worried, and it's just they try to kind of keep that separate. However, there are exceptions to every rule. So, I was approached and asked would I like to meet them, and I mean, without hesitation,
Mm,
of course I want to meet them. I mean, amazing. So that was a huge, wonderful distraction. I got to meet two of the eight children of the gentleman that received your kidney.
right.
And it was beautiful. I mean, the level of gratitude that I felt from them,
Mhm.
as well as, we were sharing pictures. I was showing
Mm,
pictures of you. They were showing me pictures of their father, and they were telling me how laborious it had been to take him back and forth to dialysis 3 times a week for 3 hours at a time, scheduling the appointments, driving back and forth to the appointments, sitting at the appointments. And then the fact that their father just wasn't well, I mean,
right,
it wasn't just the fact that he's having to dedicate 9 hours of his week plus travel time to dialysis, but then you don't feel very well, So it was just the whole family was so impacted by, if anyone's had a sick family member, everybody has. You know how much it affects you. So just hearing that and knowing that we had the opportunity to change that many lives, it wasn't just we were changing the kidney recipient's life. We were changing the lives of this entire big beautiful family,
right.
which was incredible, 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 incredible. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. So then I'm sitting there and I get a call,
Mhm.
the long-awaited call from your surgeon,
Right.
and he says things went great, everything was smooth, no issues. I got to add this. Yeah, I have to add this for David because it's a little bit of like extra props for going through this. But
Yes.
Dr. Del Pizzo says to me, he had a lot of extra abdominal muscle that we had to cut through to get to his kidney. So, more than usual. So he's going to take probably a little more time to recover because it's a little bit more painful because of that.
Mhm.
So I said, all right, well, I'll be sure to tell David. And sure
Yes.
enough, when he was in recovery, I told him this story and he was like, that's awesome. I'm going to tell everybody about that. So here we are. We're telling everybody about it. Now everybody knows how
I didn't tell
wonderful.
everybody. I
Well, no,
only
we
told my
are
gym.
now.
You're right. Now we're telling, but like I only told my coach at the gym.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
out there
that made me feel
now.
good. Right. Yeah,
Now
yeah.
the world knows
Right.
what
Right.
amazing abs you have. So, yeah. So, when you woke up from your surgery, how did you
Yeah.
feel both physically and emotionally? Oh, hello, Milo. This is we have a special guest. This is Milo, our newest puppy. He's going to be 7 months in a couple of days. Hi, Milo. Thanks
He
for
just plopped
joining
down.
us. And he's just hanging with us. So, anyway,
So I just want to add one other quick thing.
yes,
The way the surgery, like to make sure there's a separation between families and whatnot, like my surgeon was my surgeon only,
yes,
and the recipient had their own surgeon who I have no idea who that was.
right.
And the rooms, I believe, are adjoining. And so they take my kidney out and they put it on ice, and then they like bring it to the other surgeon in the other room, and they hand it off, and that's it. And then my surgeon's back focused on closing me up and making sure everything's good there. And so that there's like a complete wall. That way that the surgeon's never conflicted. Like, "Oh, this person needs it more than this person." Like that doesn't happen. Like he was only focused on me and my health, which was great. And you did mention about like how happy the recipient's family was. I didn't get to experience that until later that week. And I don't know if we're going to get to that later or what, but that to
Oh,
me
we
was the
will.
most okay. That was so incredibly impactful and moving. I don't think I even told you, but I talked to one of the recipient's sons this morning.
Oh,
An amazing phone call. He's just doing so great.
oh my gosh.
It made me so happy. It's like one of the best phone calls you get in your life
I
is
love
just
that.
to hear that like the person who you gave a kidney to is doing so well.
Yeah.
And they were like titrating him down off of so many other medications. And it was just beautiful and great and wonderful and so encouraging. That part to me, like that's what I was completely ill prepared for is just how big of an impact this is
Mhm.
and how they said they couldn't even say thank you because it's not enough,
Right.
right? Like they don't want to put the words to it because it's so much more and bigger than that. So yeah, just beautiful stuff. I know we'll get to that in a minute, but no. So post op, I mean, they gave me a nerve block, so I was feeling fine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so that part was great. The anesthesiologist like called me ahead of time. I could think even like the day before the surgery and said, "This is what's going to happen, and we'll give you a nerve block." And so I felt great till the end of the day, and then some of the pain started to set in.
Mm.
And then the biggest, I mean, I don't want to get to like too many post-op details, with what happens. It's not like super critical, but Anytime I had to get in and out of bed, that was hard because my stomach hurt.
Yes.
So you have to like use the tricks of like lifting up the bed all the way to 90 degrees and then kind of rolling out. And then when you go back in, you kind of roll back in and then tilt down. So that was uncomfortable and inconvenient. But they do tell you to walk because that helps with the gas in the shoulders.
Mhm.
And so we did a few laps in the hospital.
Yes.
Um, it's very nice. The hospital worked out a plan so that kidney donors get to be in one of the nicer floors, which was good, and you get a private room, which was also really nice. Which I was grateful for because you very nicely slept in the room too, which was
That
great. They
was
brought you out a
really
little cot,
nice.
and I loved having you there, so that was like super helpful.
I
So
couldn't be anywhere else besides there. I mean, we got a hotel, and I wasn't sure what it was gonna be like and what to expect, so I really didn't come. I came partially prepared if I wanted to spend the night. Like, I brought my medicine, that was, like, must have. Medicine, toothbrush, good, that's all. And, so I came prepared, but not really knowing. So fortunately, yes, we did get to stay on this amazing floor of the hospital. We had
yeah,
a gorgeous, like full, huge window, like a whole wall of a window of the New York skyline and the
East
East
River.
River.
Yep.
Beautiful. They treated us wonderfully. I mean, it's kind of like a VIP floor that they
Yeah.
give to the kidney donors as a kind of thank you for doing something extra special. So I mean, marble in the bathrooms, you get your own little spa robe. I mean, really for a hospital, pretty
Pretty
nice.
posh.
Pretty posh. So, and they were kind enough to bring a cot into the room so that I could sleep next to David. That
Yes.
was great. So yeah. And like
I
honestly,
actually don't remember the poshness. I just knew it was like it looked nice, it was pretty,
yeah,
and there was some fruit in the hallway that I really wanted to eat, but I couldn't yet
right.
because your digestive system is like not awake yet.
Yes.
So like, you're eating like broth.
Oh,
Basically,
I know. I
that was
felt
how I
so
kickstarted it
bad.
for it. But like whatever, it's fine. I got to eat a few days later
I know.
after
I
everything
felt
started
bad
working again.
because like I had this gorgeous menu, like a fine
Right.
dining menu, and I was eating branzino, and you were drinking soup and
That's right.
eating
That's
Jello
right.
and stuff.
Yes,
So it
yes.
was really kind of
Don't knock
sad.
Jello. Jello's good stuff.
Jello was great. Something better than liquid, right? I
Totally
mean, it
right.
was
Yeah.
slightly solid. In addition to the great care we got from the hospital and the surgeon and everything, Renewal came by with gifts and food, so much food. There was actually a little mini fridge in the room,
Right.
and they brought us like I can't even express how much. Like we didn't have enough room in the refrigerator. We had to decide what we're going to put in the refrigerator and what we didn't have room for. And in addition to that, they brought us an entire suitcase that was branded that we could keep. That was part of the gift,
Yep.
filled with gifts, a heating pad and ice packs and a phone charger and oh, and wait, let's show we have props. So the hospital gave David this little kidney bean. It says living kidney donor, Well Cornell Medicine, New York Presbyterian, and his nurses and things could sign it, little memento. So that was
Yes.
really cute.
And the renewal gave me a bigger one, which was so critical because if there's any New Yorkers listening, nobody apparently fills in your potholes. And so when we drove to the apartment where we were recovering post-op in Borough Park, Brooklyn, that was a horrible ride. It was
Bad.
just like every single bump hurt so badly. Yeah, it was just an hour of agony, but the pillow helped a lot. Like you're doing that there. So I can't imagine what it would have felt like without the pillow, to be honest.
I have a
But
confession.
yes.
I have a tiny little video, maybe 5 seconds,
Oh no.
of you in the car
Ooh, wincing?
wincing. I
Oh,
might
yeah.
insert that. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Only if it's
We'll
kind.
see. We'll
Okay.
see.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Okay.
But just to give people an idea. Anyhow, I was documenting, I like
Thank
to
you.
document all the moments, not all the moments, but some of the moments.
Right.
You talked about a little bit the most rewarding part of this whole experience was hearing from the family and hearing about how the recipient of your kidney was doing. They said their father felt 20 years younger
Right.
just
Right.
one day after receiving your kidney, which is
Right.
absolutely amazing. And now we have Nala joining us. For those that are watching the video, we have two puppy dogs, not one, but two in the room.
Mhm.
So they don't get their own mics though. Good girl, Nala. These are like our children. So, anyway, no offense to our children. We love our children very, very much, but these are our fur babies.
The news of how well the recipient was doing for me was what it was all about. So I had some discomfort, fine, whatever. Like you get over it, right? But just hearing that he was doing great so far, right? Like he felt 20 years younger. Like think about that. Like that's a big deal.
Unbelievable.
And he's younger quite a bit than my parents. So like that also like and I'm super grateful I've had them for so long. So I like wanted to make sure he has like many, many more good years. And plus that way his
Yes.
kids and grandkids can see him healthy for such a long time. But like every single report I got about him was just um so heartwarming to me. And
Amazing.
yeah, so I don't know where you wanted to go from there, but
No, I mean, I think, that's really the gift, like, you give a gift and then you get such a huge gift back, and
yeah.
I've always said it's funny, like, any, like, charitable work I've done or anything, I always said, people were like, "Oh, that's so great you did that." My response has been, I'd almost feel selfish because, like, I feel like I'm getting more back
Mhm.
than I'm giving,
Mhm.
and I think, that's how you felt. It was like, I don't even feel the pain because the reward of knowing that I've changed so many lives
Right,
and
right.
how well the recipient of my kidney is doing
Yeah.
is like no amount of pain
No, it
matters.
dwarfs, again, my discomfort, that's what I
Right.
call it, right? There's a little bit of
Right.
discomfort, yeah.
Best pain medicine ever, right?
Right, right, totally.
Huge reward. We discharged from the hospital 2 days later and
So you come in on a Tuesday, like you come in on whatever day you're going in for surgery,
right, in
and then
our
you could
case
stay 1
Tuesday.
night or 2 nights. And so theoretically, we could have left Wednesday night. Surgery was Tuesday. We could have left Wednesday night, but we decided to stay for 1 more night because frankly, I needed it a little bit more. And I was trying to still like stay ahead with the pain meds. And that just worked out, well for us. I think if there are people like live nearby and they just want to go home and recover in their own bed, that might make more sense. But our bed was like 2,500 miles away, right?
Yes.
So I couldn't do that. They wanted me to stay in the New York area for 7 to 10 days post op to in case there was any issue, I could be right there.
Right. Right. So we got discharged from the hospital. You talked about that not so fun ride from the hospital to the apartment,
Yep.
very bumpy. Every bump was a wince,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was painful to watch you go through that.
Yeah.
Um, but we were given this beautiful apartment to stay in.
Yeah, this was something just
It was
so kind and
so
wonderful from Renewal.
amazing.
They really took such beautiful care of us. So we had a beautiful apartment, and then shortly thereafter, we got again more boxes of food to have for like over the Sabbath and stuff. It was just like more than we could ever possibly eat, which was
Yes.
great, and just the loving kindness, and they even like had other people visit me in the hospital
Mhm.
just to check on me, which was also kind, right?
Yeah.
Like other kidney donors in
Other
their
kidney
network.
donors.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was another beautiful touch. And yeah, we got there and it was super comfortable and great location and just a really good place to relax and recover, for the few days that we needed.
Yeah, they made sure we had everything we needed,
Yep.
and we got several visitors at the apartment. We had the gentleman that's, I believe, the some executive officer of Renewal living right above us. So he
Yep.
came down and checked on us.
Yep.
We had several people calling and texting us to make sure we had everything we needed. If we needed anything, all we had to do was ask, and boom, it was there. We didn't have to ask for much though, because they really thought of everything.
They
So
really did.
that was
And
great.
another, like, treat was your family's from there. So we saw a lot of your family on
Yes,
Monday,
that was a
and then we
bonus.
had some of your family come visit us, at the apartment too, which was also beautiful.
That was really
Yeah.
nice. But I think probably the most amazing, life-altering, almost surreal dreamlike thing was
Yeah.
when we had the children of the kidney recipient come visit us.
Yeah. So there were 2 meetings, right?
Right,
One, was one of the sons, and his daughter and son-in-law, I think new son-in-law,
right.
came and visited, and again, that was where he said, like, he doesn't wanna say thank you because it's not enough, and you could see in their faces how much this had touched them, and like, the words could not express the gratitude they were feeling, and in turn, like, the gratitude I was feeling towards them because I was just like so happy to be included in what, joy they were celebrating and changing this, family's life. So that was deeply, deeply moving. And then Monday night you weren't feeling well, but I went back to that son's house and I met all of the children of the recipient and it's such a beautiful family. And their spouses and a bunch of grandchildren and stuff. And it was really just such a spectacular, wonderful, incredible meeting. We did a little bit of like genealogy because I was such a high match. So like, where does that
Yeah.
come from? And probably Hungary because that's where we had a common ancestry.
Right.
But yeah, it was just such a beautiful, warm, uh, amazing feeling, and I just felt honored to be among them.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. And that I could do so much for them, like, these are people that I wouldn't, like, normally encounter, especially because 'cause they're, like, on the other coast, right?
Yes.
But, like, just that I could be, so lovingly embraced by them and help them out. And then even, like, the extra conversations, was just, amazing. One of the daughter-in-laws called us,
Yeah.
like, the day we
Miriam.
got back. Yeah, yeah, and she was just so beside herself, so that all of that was just so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And Renewal shared with us, Moshe from Renewal shared with us that one of the daughters called him in tears of gratitude that her father-in-law, I think it was her father-in-law maybe, that, that he had
Yeah.
his life back and that they had him back. Okay, so we are here with Moshe from Renewal, and he is going to share with us the updates.
I've been getting calls from the family the past day or two. They all said basically the same thing. They haven't seen him like this in 20 years. They said like he's 20 years younger. He's like he wants to just get up and jump and go. It's
incredible.
It's actually crazy. And they, we described the zero eplet matching.
Yeah.
They're all like messaging me. Show me the material about this because this doesn't make sense. How good he feels right away.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Is that consistent with other zero eplet mismatches you've had?
this is better. This is
better.
The fact that it's so quick, so good,
Wow.
so quick.
Tell
Yeah.
I want you to share the story because I know I probably botched it a little bit because again I was tired and secondhand information, but tell the story about how the daughter called you yesterday and what happened there.
Yeah. So the daughter like couldn't stop crying. That was the thing, and she said essentially the same thing. Like we haven't seen him like this in years and years and years, and
What a privilege. This is great.
we just can't believe it. We just cannot believe it. I'm just telling you, this is unbelievable. This is a miracle, and
amazing.
you guys made it happen.
No,
Incredible.
Hashem made it happen.
Hashem did make it happen.
And that what occurred to me is that not only is it affecting him and his 8 children, but their children and their children, and now these young kids that otherwise would have only known their grandfather as someone that that they never really got to know, now will get
Right.
a chance to spend time with their grandfather, and he has life in him again.
Yeah.
He has energy to do things with them and spend time with them, and it's just it's a gift that there's just no words to really describe
You're
it.
right, there are no words.
You know,
That, like, I thought it was cliche when I heard some people say the only regret they have is that they can only do it once,
right?
right? But, like, I got that, like, I understood that because,
Yeah,
again, I've never experienced putting in so little relatively to getting back so much and to creating so much good.
right.
So, and I know people would say it's not that little, it's a bigger deal, but like the return on it, like you just changed 100 people's lives. That's amazing, right? It's incredible. Yeah. And so every update, like even the one this morning, like, how they were titrating down his anti-rejection medication to like a very, very, very low dose and like other medication coming off of, right? And getting the port removed and getting all the equipment out of the room,
Right.
right? So like there's a lot of
Ugh,
like equipment you have to have and like getting so much of your time back because like the dialysis day shoots the day basically, right?
yeah.
And the next day it's still not great, right? So and you're never 100%.
Mm-mm.
And a lot of people just stop it and just sort of like die
Yeah.
because like it's such a miserable way to go through your
Terrible.
last few years.
Yeah.
So again, it was just it's just an honor. Like selfishly, I think it's better for me, right? Like it's
Right?
great for a lot of it, but like it was just such a great experience for me.
Yeah. I mean, you said to me it was one of, if not the best experience of your entire
Absolutely,
life,
absolutely, yeah.
which, of course, meeting me was number
Oh
one.
yeah, for sure.
I also want to mention that our first visit was with one of the sons and his wife, and she was amazing and beautiful and so grateful. And we got to sit and have girl talk, and we all took pictures together, and it was just
That's true.
really
That was the first.
an
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah, all of
yeah.
it was just really amazing, and I was really thankful and proud to be by your side throughout the whole thing because what an honor,
Thank you.
that I got to also benefit from some of the
Yeah,
joy
yeah.
that, that you gave to this family was really remarkable. And, and your rabbi was ear to ear smiles,
Oh, sure.
so happy, so proud. And just everybody was so supportive and delightful. It was really amazing. Um,
That's one of the nice things about going to where the recipient lives. So
yes.
there are some organizations or processes where you'll do the surgery local to you,
Hmm.
and they'll put the organ on ice,
Right.
and then they'll fly it, and it'll go to the recipient, and they're standing by, and then they do the transplant. My understanding is kidney will last about 24 hours outside of the host, but you have to think at like, at some point it's not 100% of what it was anyway, right?
Right.
So it's much, much better and safer and healthier to give your recipient a fresh kidney. So like, again, for me, like, traveling across the country for 10 days, it's a little inconvenient because we had to like board the dogs and, the parrot and stuff like that. And not having your own stuff is a little bit of a big deal, but again, nothing compared to the impact that it makes to somebody. And again, like selfishly, like you get to, if they want, you can meet the recipient too, right? I'm
Hmm.
sorry, the recipient's family. Maybe one day, again, it's up to them 100%.
Right. Of course.
If they want, I'd be honored, but
Yeah.
it's up to them. But that, like, if that happens, you get to also like see how you're touching people too, which was
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. Which maybe some people don't want. Like some people I think want to just give it anonymously and that's it,
Hmm.
and they're done.
And they're
And
done.
that's fine with them. That's, I understand that.
It's a very personal choice
100%.
for both the recipient and the donor, and it's something that's individualized, and you can choose to do it or not to do it. And
Yeah.
I think since the family was comfortable with us meeting them and actually encouraging of it,
Yeah.
and I was so sad that I wasn't able to make it to the night when you went to their home. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't know, we didn't really elaborate, but David actually got an invitation to one of the son's homes, and there were like 40 people there,
Yeah.
40 family members.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I said to the one of its daughter-in-laws that I had met previously, I'm like, please take videos. And I asked
Mhm.
Moisha from Renewal, I said, please, take lots of videos and pictures. I don't want to feel like I'm missing out. I'm having total FOMO. And they sent me probably like 50 plus pictures and videos, which were amazing. I mean, they had videos of David sitting at the head of the table talking to the entire family and telling his story and what inspired him to give his kidney, and they were all just kind of like in awe of him,
Hmm.
and like he was like a star. And then they were dancing around celebrating. It was just incredibly beautiful. The whole thing was just absolutely amazing. So, oh, incredible. What restrictions did you have post op?
Oh, almost nothing. So, no of the NSAIDs, the NSAIDs medication. So,
No Advil,
ibuprofen,
no.
yeah, Advil, ibuprofen, whatever. That can't be my go-to, right?
Right.
So Tylenol instead, which is fine. It's like
Yeah.
that's like the most trivial thing in the world. Stay hydrated, which I've always been good at
Yes.
because I live in Arizona. So you're always drinking. You
Easy.
got to stay ahead of it. And yeah, my MMA career is over before it started. So
Yeah, you don't
I
wanna get
have to,
punched in the
yes,
kidney.
yeah, yeah. So I have to be a little bit more careful with any sort of like contact sports and stuff like that. But, that's not an issue.
Right. And then short term, I mean, there are restrictions on
Oh,
how
yeah.
much weight you can lift and things like that. You're not supposed to lift what, over 10 pounds for the
Like a
first.
grocery bag, basically.
Right.
Right. So
Right. So,
there was an opportunity to go to an event like 2 weeks later after my donation. And I was a little bit on the fence, but then knowing the weight restriction, I could not have gone back across the country without having to have carried my bag at least once.
right.
And that would have put me over the limit. And, that I probably overdid it a little bit early on, which I did feel and pay for a little bit.
Mhm.
So I didn't want to push it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, David's the king of overdoing it, and I'm the queen of overdoing it.
There
So
we go.
we're a
Perfect.
perfect match.
Yes.
So,
But like
yeah,
today, I went for a 5 mile hike this morning and I feel great. So
amazing.
that was
And how
awesome.
many tell us how
I like three and a
many.
half weeks.
It's been like three and a
Yeah.
half weeks, and you
So
went for a 5-mile hike today. And even while we were in the apartment in New York recovering,
yeah.
you were walking 2 to 3 miles a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe
So,
not at once, but like a few different breaks. Yeah. It
yeah,
was great.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you were doing great.
Yep.
So, but I mean, I was trying to keep you in check also, not too
Sure.
much, not too much. But yeah, but he was definitely up and around, and that was healthy for him to get out and walk
Yeah.
around and stuff. So that was good.
You're also a little bit tired afterwards too.
Yes.
Like you want to make sure to prioritize your sleep because even though well, I don't know even though, but like your body needs to recover. Like it's been through something traumatic,
Yeah.
and it's I think like removing something is that as big a deal, but I guess to your body it kind of is.
Mhm.
So it needed to recover from getting sliced and moved around and stuff like
Yes.
that. Yes,
Yeah, your body and your body has to adjust to functioning on one kidney, which takes a little bit of time for that adjustment to happen is what I've heard. So, yeah,
I think
so
your remaining kidney grows a little bit
mm,
to be able to handle the extra load. Maybe I had to go to the bathroom a little bit more frequently,
right.
but that might have also been just my hypersensitivity to drinking,
Yeah,
right? To making sure I stayed hydrated.
right.
So that's really kind of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if anybody's had like a similar abdominal surgery, you have the same lifting requirements,
Mhm.
and it's a 3-inch cut. So wearing a belt was uncomfortable. Sitting for too long was uncomfortable. Fortunately, I have a standing desk, so I was going
Yes.
up and down a lot with that, and that was kind of it.
And then in the car and in the plane, you use your kidney bean across your stomach
I
under
did,
the
yeah,
seatbelt.
yeah, yeah. The plane was fine. It's just the car ride that was just
Car
rough.
ride
Yeah,
was bad.
yeah.
Yeah. So, would you do it again?
If I could. I actually looked
If
into,
you had a
like,
third
can I give
kidney?
part of my liver?
Oh my
So and I'm on
gosh.
the bone marrow list, so I don't know if I'll ever
Right.
get a call for that, that'd be great. But, yeah, I totally understand why people would do that because really, again, it's like you're giving somebody their life back to some
Right.
degree. So, for sure, yeah. Again, that's why, like, a little bit of discomfort. You're gonna remember the pain more than I will,
Yeah.
because to me, it's just drowned out
Well,
by,
you were on
all
drugs.
the goodness. That helped too,
It's
right?
the other reason.
But no, but like, the days afterwards,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm still I don't wanna be or didn't wanna be on Oxy for too long. It's just not a good
No.
good idea. And so, I was trying to get off of that and just be on Advil, and I think not Advil, excuse me, Tylenol. So there was one day I still needed a little bit of Oxy just to, get through it.
Right.
But yeah, otherwise, whatever,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone is considering doing this and they're a little hesitant, um, what would you tell them? What
Well, I think I'd ask them why they're hesitant, like what's their big concern about it?
right.
And, if it's the saving the spare part for a family member, like I think that's mitigated and addressed reasonably well by the processes and the fact that like they'll be prioritized. The pain is manageable. I mean, it's really not different to many other types of surgeries. And if you can get a little bit of time off to do it, like, I needed basically a week
Right.
of not working to get through it, which was fine too. But then it's again, it's like such a small, and this is the part I'm not reconciling well, right? Like
Yeah.
to me, it was like, I don't want to say not that big a deal, but like not that big a deal. Like it wasn't that hard,
Right. Right.
right? But to have that kind of impact for somebody else was
Yeah.
just again humbling.
Yeah.
That's the part I wasn't prepared for. Like I wasn't prepared for other people's perception of how big a deal this was.
Right.
To me, it was very much just like not, you know, it's something kind. I get that.
Mhm.
And something loving and something where you believe in God and you want to do something positive for people. But it wasn't like this is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Right.
It's the greatest thing I've ever done, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like there wasn't an impediment of fear for me. It
Mhm.
was frankly like the greatest opportunity. It's such a gift. Like I got chosen, right? I'm special. I got chosen to be that perfect match, right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
And the other thing that was interesting that we learned is that kidney donors actually statistically have a longer lifespan than
Correct.
non-kidney donors. And there's the reason I understand because I just recently listened to another podcast about this, and they were saying that first of all, it's selection bias because the people that donate kidneys are
Have to
healthier
be a little healthier.
because
Yeah.
only 40% of people that want to donate are approved
Right.
medically to donate.
Right.
So they're healthier, but also we kind of I think both believe that because of the fact that you did something so awesome that was so gratifying, it
Mhm.
kind of gives you like more of a will to live and like you just feel so full. Your heart feels so full and it just gives you that, you know
Yeah, it does bring you, if I guess if you let it, that sense of goodness and kindness that you did for somebody, right? And you get reminders of that periodically too from
Mhm.
either phone calls or follow-ups or people mentioning it. again, like that, I was not prepared for how big a deal this was to other
Right.
people. Um, and then also, you do get to be on such an incredibly tremendous high, and then when you come back, it's the pendulum swinging the other way,
Yeah.
right? So you're just like confronted with the normal,
Day
the
to day.
doldrums and normalcy of,
I've seen that.
things.
I
Yeah.
have seen that. I
Yeah.
know. I've seen that, there was definitely like a high of, wow, I did this great thing. And
Mhm.
it's like you don't get to do something like that every day.
No, no, no,
It's like
no.
everyday life by comparison is kind of like humdrum, blah, 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 but that this is like, woo, one of those unforgettable moments in your life.
Like somebody like doesn't return the shopping cart in the parking lot, right? Like just do it. Like it takes you 10 extra seconds,
Right.
and it is just like a rude, not nice thing to do to leave it
Uh-huh.
out, right? Like a gust of wind could come or something like that. And I know this is like 1,000 million times bigger than that, but it's
Yes.
just one of those like metaphors, It's
Right.
like
Right. Yeah.
just be kind, be kind to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great message to end on. But before we end,
Okay.
I do want to ask you, is there
Sure.
anything that I have not asked you that I should be asking you or anything you'd like to add?
I briefly touched on it earlier, but the phone call I received this morning from one of the sons, just getting that follow up detail, that put me on the high for the rest of the day too, because you hear about the numbers getting so much better and the recipient feeling so much better, and it's rarely just like you're on dialysis. Like there's other things that happen to your body that you have to take other medication for because you're offsetting a lot of things, right? And dialysis doesn't get you to be 100%. It gets you like to some certain percentage,
Right.
and then the second you walk out the door, it starts going back again, right? And then you have to go back again, whatever, 2 or 3 days later.
Right.
So just knowing that the recipient's doing well is amazing and incredible for me. And will I meet him? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's up to them.
Yeah.
But it just brings me so much joy and happiness knowing how well he's doing, and feeling in the voice of people how meaningful this is. And I think that's one of the more interesting experiences throughout this, and even some things leading up to it, is many people say things, but it's very rare you feel the emotion in what they're saying.
Right.
And almost all of the interactions related to this have had that level of impact. And to me, that's like the most impactful and beautiful thing is because people use words almost cheaply these days, but to
Yeah.
feel it coming through was amazing. Again, like I feel honored to have been able to do this because,
Yeah.
like, I'm not a spring chicken, and so to be healthy enough to do it is great, and to have the perfect match is great, and the recovery, thank God's been pretty smooth. Like I have to say,
Agreed.
yeah, getting back here, and my brother was great. He like lifted the luggage off the
Yes.
carousel.
Thank you, John.
Yes, thank you. And so but like everything's fallen into place really well. So that just makes me really happy.
Yeah. And I will say one thing that came to mind
Yeah,
before that I forgot to mention is I feel like we've gained another family.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the family of the recipient and the recipient himself, I feel like we're now bonded. I mean, your organ is literally like part of this man. It's
I'm in 2 places at once.
you are.
That's
You're
my
in 2
superpower.
places at
Yeah.
once, and you are truly a superhero in my mind. You always have been, but now you're
Oh,
like
thank
an
you.
extra superhero. So, knowing that, this is like our family now too, it's just it's really incredible and beautiful, and I
Mhm.
don't know of another. I know I've said that many times. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it just really was an incredible experience, and the whole thing kind of like restored my faith in humanity, just seeing how much people truly care. Of course, the family's going to care, that's a given,
Right, right.
but all the people that were involved in this process from start to finish,
Mhm.
how much they care, and the other kidney donors that came to visit you
Right.
during the time there, it's like this exclusive club of people that are
You
incredibly.
can't pay your way in.
No, well, you can, but it'll cost you an
Yeah, it costs you
organ.
an organ, right, yeah.
But it's, I mean, just this incredibly special community of people that has this bond because only they know how special this feeling is of giving to somebody the gift of life.
Right.
So I think that's probably a good place to close it out. What do you think?
I think that's great.
Yeah, awesome. I love you,
Thank
and
you.
I'm so
Love you
proud
too.
of you.